So
Do you remember the first time it was played?
absolutely.
Okay, well, tell us about it, Bill.
First time was Purdue in 1998. And what a lot of people remember about that game to start with, and we could go back and forth on it, it was Drew Brees' college record-setting game of all games.
I have never seen the ball thrown so much in my life. And after a while, I think Coach Alvarez says, we can bend but don't break.
Absolutely.
And that was because we knew he was going to throw the shit out of the ball, and he did.
Yeah. So he broke the attempt and completion record. And if I remember correctly, it was 84 attempts he had, and he completed 53 completions out of 84 attempts, which is sick. And I ran into one of our D coordinators. And to your point, before the game started, Coach Alvarez is like, listen, we're treating all these short passes as a run.
Okay.
And that whole, like, we could give up a pass, but we're not giving up more than 4 yards or 6 yards, and we're just treating it as a run.
Okay.
And we'll stop them eventually. We'll get incompletions. They're going to run the ball. We'll shut that down right at the line of scrimmage. But as those attempts and completions start piling up, all of a sudden, our defensive corner or defensive back coach, Phil Elmation, he's up in the box, and Coach Elmation, I mean, a lot of people throughout college football don't always agree with them, and he's been to a lot of different teams. And I think, I don't know, this is rumors, but I think a lot of it is his mentality, thinking like, even though he's a DB's coach or the D coordinator, whatever positions he's held, that it's more his way when it needs to be the head coach's way. But we had 2 lockdown corners that we're going to get to later in Eccles and Fletcher.
Mm-hmm.
But in the fourth quarter of that game, Coach Elmation told me years after we were all done playing, I asked him, I go, what was your opinion about that game? And he goes, Billy, because we all know the D-backs coach is up in the booth every game.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, Billy, after the third quarter of the game, I took the elevator down and I was on the sidelines. He goes, Coach Alvarez looked at him and he goes, what the hell are you doing down here? And I guess Phil looked at Coach Alvarez and goes, there ain't nothing more I could do up in the booth. So I want to come down here and see it firsthand. So just left the booth and like gave up coaching. That was just like, I want to watch it in person.
Right.
So when that fourth quarter started, the student section went nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like we always know the student section to do. It was like just that bounce in motion. But the rest of the stands, arguably 60,000 other people, were just staring at them in awe. You know, cheering them on maybe, but staring. Nobody was really jumping up and down. Nobody was singing along. We go from Purdue, we go on the road to Michigan, come back, we're playing Penn State, and we have to beat Penn State to go to the Rose Bowl. We got Mike Samuel at quarterback, we got Chris Chambers receiver, Nick Davis, obviously Ron Dane, and we start manhandling them. This is a game. If we hadn't talked about it, Mike Samuel, I always brag, like everybody does, toughest quarterback that I ever met.
Mm-hmm.
He lowered a shoulder on a 3rd and long draw and knocked LeVar Arrington out of the game, dislocated his shoulder, and LeVar to leave the game. I made sure to remind LeVar that when I played for the Redskins later on in my career. He's like, who's Mike Samuel? I'm like, Mike Samuel is the motherfucker that knocked you out of the Penn State game. That's who Mike Samuel is. But in the right before the fourth quarter of that game, when Jump Around came on, and, you know, like, I'm not trying to rip on Badger fans, but there was no game I've ever seen on TV or in person that replicated that Penn State game. Now, granted, there was a lot on the line. You know, Ron's running like crazy. You know, everybody knows he's about to be a Heisman winner. If we win the game, we go to our first Rose Bowl. And when they played House of Pain Jump Around, if there was 70,000 people in that stadium, 70,000 people were jumping up and down at the same time. And I've never seen it. Nowadays, people are pulling out their cell phone cameras. That's the thing, too. Back then, 98, people didn't have cell phone cameras. No. Nobody's recording stuff. Somebody might take a picture with their camera, but they're not recording. Today, it's like half the stadium wants to stand and record. Right. They're singing it and recording it. So that's why you just don't see it the way we saw it that day. Just everybody was jumping up and down.
You felt it on the turf.
You felt it, just the ground shake.
Everything shook. And I'm not sure if this is true, and someone can look this up. Somebody said that it actually will register on a seismic Richter, I don't say Richter scale, I don't even know what it is, but whatever picks up vibration.
Like, I'd say very similar to Richter scale, like an earthquake, that type of
vibration. It will pick up the Jump Around, and actually, like, significantly further away from the stadium than you think, like something like
Yes.
2 or 3 miles, like
Yes, they have.
something ridiculous. You're going,
Yeah.
holy cow, which would make sense. And if you also recall, after the first 1 or 2, they tried to shut down Jump Around
Yes.
because we weren't quite sure that the old girl Camp Randall was going to be able to hold up,
Absolutely.
under that kind of stress.
And they've had that. What was the song? The Beer Barrel Polka, right?
Yeah.
That the Budweiser
Yep.
song. They had that back in the day where they had the Army Corps of Engineers come in and check the upper deck. But yeah, Jump Around was a little different reaction than Beer Barrel Polka. So yeah, there was a lot of concern about it. But yeah, I don't think Barry Alvarez was going to let that song get shut down
No,
at least after those 2 games, seeing what could happen there.